So in this video, I want to talk about why a lot of Korean students applying to the US colleges or US colleges, or even Asian students in general, perhaps, students from other countries, struggle when they're writing an essay in their college application. Okay? So this is something that I've noticed. This is a pattern that I've noticed while teaching students here in Korea for over like 20 years. I'm referring to those questions, the usual questions like what are your accomplishments have been and how they have affected your life. What's the most important event in your life? How that changed your life. So let me just draw a person. This is a face. Just let me tell you that I've always failed in arts, painting. So this is not an area of expertise for me. Wow, the arm is too long. But I'll just draw it anyway. Okay, I messed up here. As long as you can see the main part, the important parts. And let me just try this. And I'm gonna write mind or inside your head. And here I'll say action. Okay, that's an ugly C. So I'm gonna cancel this. Okay. All right. So the thing with writing an essay is a lot of students, well, the first problem they usually run into is they don't know what to write about. Because this is why a lot of times students are confused because they think that what they observe, what they see, and their feelings, their emotions, and their ideas are actually an experience. Okay? Whereas what happens here, what they do with their hands, or where did they go, what did they do with their feet, are probably the real experiences. Do you see what I'm saying? But this is also the case for many adults here in Korea too, because a lot of people actually, they think that they've done a lot in their life, but then by the time they become 60 years old or 70 years old, they look back on their life and realize, I feel like inside of my head, I've done so much. I've experienced so many things. But when you try to sit down and write about it, you kind of realize you really didn't do that much, or at least as much as you thought you did. Why? Because you fail to acknowledge the difference between here and here. Why this matters is what happens here. So they have eyes and their brain. A lot of times mouth too. I have to say mouth. I have to include mouth because a lot of people just talk, but they don't really do anything, right? So they think and they talk. And they think that they have experienced something. They have done something. Goes here. Go here. Whereas what they did with their hands or feet, where they went, go here. The problem is you sit down with the student, and I'll just use, for this video, I'll use the pronoun she. Because my most recent student who I talked about this with was she. So the thing is, she had a lot going on in her mind. So there was a lot of things, struggle, stress, depression, ideas, resentment. She was struggling through this process because she felt that she had gone through so much. But then when I asked her to write it out, she was struggling. She had trouble writing it. And it didn't take me long to detect the reason why she was struggling with it. Because in terms of action, in terms of what she did with her hands and her feet, there were not that many. I gave 2. I gave 3, but I'll give it 2. Okay? There are so many things here. But then there are very few. And I'll call this outside. Ooh, that's the ugliest S. The ugliest S that I've ever seen. And I'm going to say here, inside. Okay? So when you write a autobiography or write something about yourself or your life, what you have done, or something what happened to yourself in your life, it makes sense to write about these things rather than here. So now let's go back to the original question. Why then so many Korean students or even Asian students in other Asian countries find it difficult to write an essay asking them about events or accomplishments or some action they've taken that have shaped the kind of person they or they have that have influenced them, because they don't really have that many here, right? And this has a lot to do with the school system, because the students in Korea, again, in many other Asian countries, they don't do enough outside activities. I mean, I know these days in the Korean educational system, we're supposed to, I think, fill up to like certain hours of activities. Like I think they have like community service or something, but they are there not because they want to be there, not because they have some personal reasons to be there. Maybe providing services, providing help to the elderly or something. They were there because they needed this credit. They needed this to make their transcript look better, or it was some kind of requirement. They did this for college. So while they were doing this, they weren't really thinking, they weren't really engaging themselves in the activity. So they forget. The experience didn't really matter to them. So they walked home with really nothing. So when you ask them to write about some activity, what they'll say would be very dull. They will not give you a lot of substance. Whereas I don't want to make comparisons, but I have to. I mean, this is because I'm making this video for people, international students applying to colleges in the U.S. In many Western societies like U.S., when the students go out and do something before college, a lot of times they will take an action because they wanted to voluntarily do it. They had choices not to, but they would do it. And because of that, after these activities are complete, you ask them what they think of it. You notice that they have gained something. They have some kind of self-realization, or just a tiny bit of maybe personal growth. Whereas these Korean students, when they get out and do something because it was required for college, their mind was elsewhere. You know what I mean? They felt they were there because it was required. And this is why it's tough for a lot of Korean students to write a college essay when they're applying to a U.S. college. See, I have to talk about my essay. The title was Rebel with a Cause. In reference to the movie, very old movie, Rebel Without a Cause by James Dean, starring James Dean. I know some of you probably know, probably more people don't know who he is because he was an old guy from the 50s and 60s. I think he died in 1960s. Anyway, back then, when I was applying to college in the 90s, they knew. Almost everyone knew. Because he was American. He was a Hollywood actor, right? So I made this reference. And my essay was about how growing up in Korea, I was raised by very strict parents and teachers and church. And I wanted to break this nutshell. I wanted to break this little frame that I was put into while I was being educated. And this was, I labeled it as the process for my personal growth. I had to be rebellious. And my point in the essay was I wanted to continue this rebelling process in the college. And I was applying to a liberal college, so that made very good sense. It was very clear what I wanted to do. So I had a lot of stuff here actions, right? A lot of things that other people can see too, right? Not just what I was, what was going on inside my head. Because I couldn't do this, I couldn't do that, I was forced to do this, forced to do that, but then I decided to go to high school in America. That was also a huge step for me. And also the fact that I'm applying to a liberal arts college back then, it was very rare for an international student from Korea or even Asia. That itself gave me a lot to talk about. So it doesn't really necessarily have to be something from the past, what you can write about here. Anyway, well, I hope this has helped you maybe get a little idea of what you can write about or why you may be struggling when you're writing a college application essay, or even like higher education, right? Or schools of higher education, like graduate school or something. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe and press the like button, leave a friendly comment, most importantly, share it with the beloved ones.